Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat. And we're joined by Kelly Brown, a member of the board of the Myra Canyon Trestle Restoration Society. Did I nail that?
You got it, Kent. That's a mouthful.
Yes. So before you work on shortening the name, there's things to do to maintain these trestles. And I take it that there is some concern that you need members of the board, you need volunteers, and you need funds to maintain these trestles. Am I right?
You're correct, Ken. The history basically was the restoration part of that name for society was a group that recognized this railway just before the Great Fires of 2003, that it was a dangerous place, but we want to keep it, so they decided to restore it. And then through consequences of life and nature, they were destroyed in 2003. Fortunately, that group who had decided to restore it had applied and were successful at being designated a provincial park and subsequently a heritage site in Canada. So after the fires, there was funding available for both from the provincial level and the federal level. So that gave us a start, the society, to really look at a rebuild, and it was agreed that that would occur.
Yeah. And what was it, some $28 million?
Correct. It was a huge amount of money.
You were able to get that. And
Yeah.
okay, so I've ridden up on those trestles recently. They seem solid. They're so well built now. In the earliest days, we'd go up there was no railings, there was boards missing.
As you know, people had been injured and killed on that.
It was really a hazardous adventure.
It was.
It's looking so safe and nice now. Like, what do you even need? It looks good.
That's a good question. So what's happening is the park owns the trestle structure themselves and must maintain that. From the bed up, it's the responsibility of our volunteer group to maintain it.
In other words, all of that wooden infrastructure we see.
All the sidewalk, all the railing. One of the things our group does often is we go up in the spring, and as trees and things and branches overlap the trail, we'll go in and cut it back so we can keep the trail clean. Then if there is a board missing or something, or screws or nails are loose, then we fix all that. So we're bed up, and that's what we do. And
so you've got to maintain that. And are you able to keep up?
You know, we've been able to keep up because we had enough funds built in a war chest after that fire, and the input from the feds and the provincial government, plus all the locals who knew of it, provided a lot of funding at the time. As you had mentioned, there was a lot of motion in the valley with the fires, and a lot of things happened to people. I think it was, if I understand it correctly, it's the largest evacuation that's ever occurred in Canadian history, and it occurred in this little town.
I know, and all those homes were lost. Sometimes when bad things happen, people want to somehow make it better, and so I guess that was a good time to be appealing to governments to say, hey, let's rebuild this great asset.
Exactly.
So how many people come to see this? I've heard of people coming from a place like Switzerland saying, let's go to those.
It's amazing. On our website, which, can I mention that here?
Sure, yeah.
Our website is myratrestles.com. And if you go there, we've just updated it recently, you'll see it's got lots of information, a number of visitors and other things. But it's amazing when you're up there as a volunteer or meeting people up there, a good percentage of the people are from all over the world. Europe, it's very popular, and Australia. And it changes from one to number 1 or 3, but on TripAdvisor, if you're an outsider and you want to know what to do in Kelowna to get out and see the sights, it's somewhere between number 1 and 3 as the most popular thing to do.
It is pretty spectacular. It's one of those things where, I've been up there a number of times, but every time I get up there, it's like being there for the first time again. You look around and it takes your breath away.
It really does. It's beautiful and it's interesting. As you mentioned, every time you go up, it changes with the seasons.
Yeah.
So if you go up there sort of in the spring, you'll have snow-covered mountains around you and fresh saplings and things happening, and animals, birds and that sort of thing starting to nest. And as you get in the summer, that's when the crowds start to come and it gets really busy and vibrant. You go to the fall, the leaves are changing colors and things are slowing down. It's cooler. It's nice to do long rides because it's not too hot. And Only time's not much happening is the winter, and then nature takes over basically.
Right.
And we've got counters on the two ends of the trail, so they're infrared based, and they count people that come and go, so we get a rough idea of
All
number
right,
of people.
so what are you getting
So we
out of
get
that?
counts in
What's
the winter.
it telling you?
It's telling us, well, let me see, I got a number here. The latest number. Looks like we're getting, since 1993, we've had over, like, close to 1 million. We've had 600,000 global visitors since 2008. So it's a very popular spot. And the one thing is these counters, that's something, since I'm new to the board as of this really past spring, I found some of those numbers odd, that we'd have some odd numbers of visitors. It's like, so that means somebody, if you go out and you come back, that's an even number always.
So some people went in and never came back.
So they said, how accurate? So we got into it a bit. And what it is it's counting animals too.
Oh,
So you'll get a wolf or whatever, the deer that might cross at a certain point and jump off and go. And we don't know exactly what, but obviously those are small numbers compared to the 40,000 visitors we get a year.
you made a pitch to the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, just yesterday.
What are you asking?
That's a good question. So what we've had with that wonderful investment that the provincial, federal, and local people made after the fires, that money's been used to help support all these efforts to rebuild the surfaces, put in the railings, do the maintenance. But now that pot of gold is basically empty. We're coming towards the end.
Yeah.
And where we didn't have to worry about fundraising in the past because we had a good savings account, we're getting low on that.
Yeah.
And that original group also, who's there to restore it, are now moving on in life and are quite senior and are moving off of the board.
Yeah.
So we're looking for
You need new people.
new blood,
New blood.
more
and-
volunteers.
And a little money.
and now some fundraising. And
Right.
so we're just at the cusp of that right now, and we're just starting to dip our toe into that. And the vice
It's a
president,
busy thing. This fundraising arena is
It's
all
amazing.
full of people all saying, help this cause, help that cause. So,
exactly. And I don't know a lot about it. My background being in chemistry, but also in moving into manufacturing and then into the business world. I do know that there are a lot of good people out there, and I've belonged to volunteer societies before. I'm always amazed that if you can go out and look and ask, you sometimes find some of those people that can help you. And
Would there ever be a way to actually have a gate and charge people a pittance to use them?
It's a great question. It's right now, it's designated by the BC Provincial Park as a wilderness trail. So all the wilderness trails you can just drive up to and walk
Yep.
through and that. If you look at national parks, for instance, at the other extreme on the federal level, then yes, you have to buy one of their passes and then you can go to different
Right.
parks and that. And that's a great question. So we don't know what our future is going to look like yet, but we know we're no longer restoring. We know we have to go to the next step. And part of that journey has just started this year with a couple of new directors, including myself, is in January we're going to pull people like the Chamber of Commerce, from Parks Canada, from Heritage Canada, from TOTA, the Thompson Okanagan Tourist Board, from the City of Kelowna, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where we're just starting now. Chamber of Commerce people, they're all plugged into a variety of people.
But are people starting to ask that question, whether there should be an admittance fee, even if it's
Yes,
really
they are.
small, like a non-barrier fee, but just enough to keep the wood?
You know, it's interesting. We've got little coin boxes at each end of the park, the little metal things. I didn't even know we had such a thing. Because I didn't know people still carry coins with them,
Right.
especially up in
So
the
you actually
wilderness.
do, you
But
actually
that's
do,
where we
you
used
do
to
have
get
a volunteer collection thing?
Yes.
There? Okay.
I think we make like $30 a month or something. And then some guy drives up, one of the volunteers drives up there and back to collect that.
Enough to buy a couple of nails.
So we do have to move on. We've got to modernize. Our new website has a spot for donating, and that's starting to grow a bit.
Right. I didn't quite get an answer to that. Is
Yeah.
it actually something you're considering yet, going to a fee to use?
There is nothing official at this moment.
Has it
of
been
considering.
but it's been
It's
talked
been
about?
talked about by different people, but so many things we've been talking about that, again, we're just realizing we don't know what we need to do. So we're just at the start of one of those things in life where if you're starting a new project and you got a great idea about something, you want to do something. The thing is, one of the biggest tripping points at that point is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. So we know there's this, we could do this, we could do that, we could build a building up there, we could have expanded parking, we could do a whole bunch of things. We could have,
Yeah.
and we don't know. So what we're doing in January is we're going to get a bunch of these folks from the community and widespread from the provinces to the federals and have what's called a visioneering exercise. It's a fancy name for saying, put all these people in a room. Let's talk about all these great ideas that are floating around out there by all these good people who have different viewpoints, different backgrounds, expertise, and that sort of thing. Let's talk. Let's have the conversations. And then we're going to be structured so that we'll have somebody lead us along, that we don't go off, faded away or anything. We'll throw things up on the wall and then we'll start to flow. Exactly. So the goal is in January is to develop our new strategy for the next phase of the organization.
And I know there's a lot of people who really value these Myra Canyon Trestles. If they happen to be watching this and they want to somehow be part of the solution to keep it in the good condition it's currently in, what should they do?
That's a good question. So if they're motivated and have a strong desire to be involved, they should talk to us and see what roles they might play as a volunteer. The other thing they can do is...
Can they do that contact through your website?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's myratrestles.com. The other thing they can do, when they're on the website, it's right on the top of the page. If you would like to maintain it, there's the line there. It says, if you want to maintain us, click here, and it'll take you right to a GoFundMe type site, and you can make a donation. And again, any ideas, suggestions, we'd certainly love to look at them, and it's an exciting time for us.
So we'll make contact with you again in January, I guess, and see if you can share some of your vision with us.
Yeah.
Kelly Brown?
Kent, it's been great talking with you.
Thank you. From the Trestle Society.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.